A little over 20 years ago, Infiniti introduced a brand new flagship three-row body-on-frame SUV to America called the QX56. Now at the time, the QX56, while it was a nice luxury SUV, it was heavily criticized for kind of being more like a guzzied up version of the Pathfinder Armada. Now obviously over the years, Infiniti renamed the QX56 to the QX80, bringing it into its second generation back in 2011, but we actually haven't seen any big changes to their flagship model since that time frame, and it's been about 14 years. So for 2025, Infiniti is finally ready to take this segment seriously with the introduction of this vehicle. This is the fully redesigned 2025 QX80. It's built off of an entirely new frame underneath. It has a brand new powertrain under the hood, all new styling, and a brand new infotainment system with modern tech conveniences that you expect in a luxury SUV. So we already had a chance to drive this vehicle out in California a couple months ago, but this week, as you can see, Infiniti has loaned us this fully loaded autograph painted in dynamic metal. And the big question I want answered, for those of you who are looking for a flagship three-row body-on-frame SUV that can tow and haul heavy loads, has Infiniti managed to deliver a world-class vehicle that can go toe-to-toe with its American and Japanese rivals? Stay tuned to find out. Before we start talking about the all-new styling for this third-generation QX80, I thought I'd pop the hood and show you guys what's powering this thing. Now, one of the last reasons to buy the previous generation was it was still available with a naturally aspirated V8. Sadly, as you can see, that has been replaced, of course, by a new engine, a 3.5-liter twin-turbocharged V6. Now, before you guys start complaining, this engine is kind of new, but it's also just a, increased size variant of the corporate 3-liter twin-turbo V6. It's part of the VR-DDTT engine family, so it's known internally as the VR35DDTT. Which stands for twin turbo. That's what the two T's essentially mean. It's a 3.5-liter gasoline direct injection twin turbo V6, delivering 450 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. Now, the old 5.6-liter V8 was a tank, and it had pretty good power, but this has 50 more horsepower and 103 more pound-feet of torque. So that's healthy increases. It all goes out through a 9-speed automatic transmission, so 2 more gears versus the old 5.6-liter V8. And fuel economy did improve slightly. This 4-wheel drive version that I'm showing you here is rated at 16 in the city, 19 on the highway, about 17 combined. It has a 23.6-gallon fuel tank on premium gas. You'll do a little over 400 miles of range on a full tank. Now, Infiniti doesn't claim a 0 to 60 performance for this vehicle. We got 6.5 seconds in our first drive of this vehicle back in California, so we'll retest it when we get this vehicle out on the road. It should have a top speed of around 130 miles an hour, and this is still a big body-on-frame SUV. It can tow a maximum of 8,500 pounds. And while I couldn't find the actual curb weight of this vehicle, I would estimate this model as it sits probably weighs in at just under 6,000 pounds. So it's certainly no featherweight, but it's nice to see that the V6 has gotten more power. Sadly, if you're looking for a hybrid or mild hybrid or electrification, there is none of that on the QX80. It just has a straight gas twin turbo V6. But let's go ahead and close up the hood here and talk about the exterior styling. Now, this color is called dynamic metal. It's a new color for 2025, and I definitely want to see the QX80 in a different color combination versus this vehicle that we've been seeing for a while. You can take your pick between either like a grand blue, a nice red, there's also a black, there's also a white color, and a different gray. So I'm hoping that at some point Infiniti will send me a different color. Like, I think this vehicle would look really good in white. The dynamic metal certainly has some nice metallic fleck to it. It also has a brand new front fascia with the trendy divorce style for the LED daytime running lights and headlights. You can see the headlights, or the daytime running light includes the LED turn signal, but it's not a sequential design. You have their new artistry and motion design language here, where the grille is supposed to resemble bamboo in the actual slats. There's a big illuminated Infiniti logo there, front and center, which has a new style to the design. You have full LED headlights, LED low and high beams down there. There's a functional air intake there that creates a little air curtain going over the wheels. The front end also has some active grille shutters. It has standard 360 camera, so there's the camera there, parking sensors, the radar sensor for the Infiniti ProPilot Assist 2.1. And overall, this vehicle is instantly recognizable as an Infiniti. In fact, it takes a lot of styling cues from the QX monogram concept that we saw a few years ago. And I think this car is certainly attractive, and it looks big, it looks imposing. Keep in mind, there's also going to be a new version of the Armada, which I already had a chance to see. Nissan definitely went with a more truckier route versus Infiniti going with the more luxury road-going route. Now, moving around the side profile, I mentioned earlier, brand new frame that has an increase in torsional rigidity by about 25%. And in terms of the dimensions, Infiniti kept the wheelbase the same at 121.1 inches long. It's 211 inches long in the overall length, about 3 inches longer than the old model. It's the same height, but it's around 83.3 inches wider, wide. So it's around 3 inches wider versus the previous generation, which is definitely going to give us more interior space, which is nice. You can see in terms of, this right here, there's a functional air intake opening there. I believe it's for heat extraction. You can see the wheels. These are the unique 22-inch wheels that you get on the Autograph trim. You can see it has multiple spokes. It's got a graphite gray finish, a two-tone look to it. It's riding on a 275 by 50 R22 Bridgestone all-season tire, all disc brakes, and then this model here also has their adaptive air suspension. So it's the first time Infiniti's doing air suspension. It gives you the ability to raise and lower the vehicle, and at max lift, this has just over 10 inches of ground clearance, so that's definitely nice. If you want to go off-roading, you can see, I appreciate the fact that there's, body-colored areas throughout the vehicle, none of that, wheel arch trim that's unpainted. You can see there's running boards here, although most competitors do a power retracting running board. I'm surprised these are just fixed into position. You have a black painted side mirror here, which are power folding, integrated turn signals with cameras. You can see the Autograph trim is the only trim that gives you the two-tone roof, which I think looks really nice. You have black accents and silver roof rails, the standard panoramic sunroof, which is nice because the old model didn't even offer that. And then if you back away from the vehicle here, love the boxy styling of the car. It's got a Autograph badge on the side there under the rear window to let everybody know you have the fully loaded version. And then coming out the rear, you can see instantly recognizable as an Infiniti, but it has some new design cues here. I love the full length LED light bar. Again, very trendy design, but it looks good on this car with the integrated LED turn signals, of course. I think this car should have had sequential LEDs, which would have been nice. It spells out Infiniti at the back boldly. There's a black accented QX80 four-wheel drive badge there. The Autograph is the only trim that gets the kind of black chrome that you're seeing around the vehicle, which is definitely a nice touch. You can see the rear bumper also has a unique look to it. No visible exhaust tips. Instead, it's hidden underneath the rear area. And some of you are probably curious, so I'll fire up the engine. You can hear how it sounds really quick. And while a twin-turbo V6 will never replace a V8 in terms of noise, it certainly has an interesting sound to it, and it even sounds more augmented when you're inside the vehicle. Now, I also forgot to mention integrated rear spoiler, which includes a digital camera, rearview mirror, and then the wiper blade is nicely hidden underneath the spoiler, so it creates a really flush, clean look to it. And then in terms of the cargo area, the QX80 only comes in one size, but if you guys are comparing this to the Lexus LX, another main rival, this is where the QX80 has some clear advantages. You have up to 22 cubic feet of storage space with that third row seat up. That is a huge amount. It's actually bigger versus the previous generation by about like 8 cubic feet. There's also a little bit of underfloor storage over here, although not a ton. If you want to fold down this third row area, you can basically just push this little button here. You can see it's a power folding third row. Fold down the third row, which is how most of you are probably going to have it with the captain's chairs, or you can also get a bench in the second row. Fold down that third row, you get a maximum of 59 cubic feet of space, and that's a very usable amount. You can see it almost creates a flat load floor. If you want to fold down the second row as well, you can do that from back here. Infiniti says it'll increase the cargo to 101 cubic feet of space. So that is a pretty good amount. It's a little bit less versus what you're going to get in the Cadillac Escalade or the Lincoln Navigator, but this is definitely more than the Lexus, a little bit less as well versus the Jeep Grand Wagoneer. So obviously, if you're looking for a body-on-frame Japanese SUV, this has way more practicality versus its main rival from Lexus. So on the outside, Infiniti obviously did a great job with the new exterior styling, in my opinion, but what about the interior? This is where the old one seriously needed some help. But before we get inside, however, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see this model also introduces a brand new key fob for Infiniti, which I love seeing. You can see it's kind of a nice evolution of their old key fob. You can see it has typical buttons here for remote start, lock, unlock, power liftgate, and panic function. It also has a nice size to it. It's not a bulky key, which I also like the textures and the colors to it, so that's a really nice touch. You can see as you approach the vehicle here, it has their new pop-out door handles here. So if the vehicle is locked, which I'll go ahead and lock it there, you can see the mirrors will fold in, the door handles will also retract. It also offers a walk-away lock and unlock feature, which the door handles are not retracting right now because I'm standing too close in proximity to the vehicle. If I touch the back of the door handle there, you can see that is what unlocks the door for you. Now, this color combination that I'm showing you is unique to the Autograph trim. It's their burgundy premium semi-aniline full leather interior. So if you guys want this reddish interior, you have to go for the Autograph trim. There's also a black interior color, and there's also like a beige interior color. I think they called it Sepia. It's available on the other lower trims of the QX80. The base pure version has like a leatherette material called Tailor Fit. The Luxe has a leather material, and then the Sensory and up gets the semi-aniline. This is the only trim, however, that gets the red with the unique contrast stitching and piping as well with the diamond quilted pattern. These seats adjust in 14 different ways. You can see it's got traditional controls over here. They're heated, ventilated, and massaging, and the massage function extends into the second row. That's included when you guys go for the Sensory trim and up. But just again, remember, this color is unique for the Autograph trim. I also love the way the door panels look with the beautiful diamond quilted stitched leather with the contrast stitching, leather covering this upper portion. It's also really plush. I also love the black ash wood with the kind of metal inlays, with the laser cut metal inlays. It just looks really upscale. It looks really modern. It's got a nice padded center armrest over here, which is nice. You have new controls for the window controls, which are kind of illuminated actually. You can't really see them until the car is turned on, with your power mirror controls here. Of course, your door lock switches here. You have two-person memory on the front driver and the front passenger. Down here, it's even soft touch padded, where you'd, put some stuff over here. Only this area here is hard touch plastic, which is kind of expected, although some competitors line this with like a carpet material, although it is lined on the inner portion here, just not over here. There's a 24 speaker Klipsch reference audio system. So this is the upgraded audio. The base QX80 will have a 14 speaker system. You can see it's got metal speaker covers, metal over here. It also has speakers built into the headrests, which look really interesting, but they're great if you guys take a lot of phone calls, because you can hear people directly in your head when you're using the Bluetooth audio and the phone capabilities. But overall, the interior makes a great first impression. As I get in, you can see it's got these fixed running boards along with a grab handle here, although this could have been stitched in leather. Hoisting myself in, you can see it has a pretty high step-in height. You can adjust the air suspension to raise and lower it. And sadly, unlike some competitors, there is no soft closed doors feature, which should be included at this trim. You can see nothing there, but the door has a pretty solid sounding thunk from the inside, but I have to say it sounds really cheap and tinny from the outside. So didn't really like how it sounded there, but that's something they could easily adjust. You can see once you're inside, the start stop button is right here where you'd expect it to be. Thankfully, it's not blocked by the steering wheel. And you can hear it has the typical Infiniti Nissan starter noise when the vehicle starts up. It's got a power tilt telescoping steering wheel, and this is not a hybrid or mild hybrid, so obviously it's not going to, whir to life like some competitors as a traditional starter noise. It's got a brand new steering wheel, as you can see, with the two-spoke design, really fat rim with the contrast cross stitching, which looks nice. I also like this kind of 3D texture here in the spoke of the design. It's got the new Infiniti logo here. I don't love the touch sensitive controls here. You can see there's your controls for the Drive Pilot Assist 2.1, and then your audio controls are over here along with your volume control. And then this little control here, if you push that, it allows you to essentially adjust the way access the shortcut menu, and you can also adjust the way the gauge cluster looks. There's the elegant look, there's the dynamic look, which you can see looks a little bit nicer, I think. And then you can also go to a enhanced view, which will kind of give you a big center screen there if you want to put GPS or your trip computer there. So that's definitely nice, although I will say that the graphics from this really remind me of Nissan, just with some different colors. I think Infiniti could have done a better job to kind of give us a brand new graphical layout that is unique to Infiniti. You can see the background for this is called the live view, which actually changes based on the time. So it's 11:15 a.m. with the sun up. If I was showing you this at night, it would show you like stars and the moon because it changes dynamically with the day and time that you're actually like in the car. You can see above me here, you have leather covering the upper dash, which is nice. You have a heads-up display. You've got this 14-inch or 14.3-inch dual infotainment system. You can see there's a 14.3-inch screen here, another 14.3-inch screen as well. This is standard on every version of the QX80. You can see, however, it's not one continuous screen. There's like a 5mm gap right here going from the instrument panel to the center display. I would have liked to see it be one continuous screen, but this is certainly a big improvement over the old model, which had an analog gauge cluster and its 12.3-inch center touchscreen. You can see there's the sensor there that watches your face for the driver monitoring system. It's got a power tilt telescoping wheel with paddles on the wheel, good amount of adjustability and range. The horn, it sounds pretty much what you'd expect it to for a vehicle of this size. And then you can see down here, or over here, you can see first there's more of that laser cut finish wood with the metal inlays, which look nice. I don't love the piano black that's covering this area and this area and this area. It shows fingerprints annoyingly, which I don't love. You can see down here there's a 9-inch touchscreen to control your audio and to control your drive mode selector. There's a haptic feedback on the screen, so when I touch it, it actually will give you a little bit of a pulse in your or where your finger touches it to let you know that it's confirmed that. 4-wheel drive is optional on all the trims except for the Sensory and the Autograph, where it is standard. You can see there's no low-range transfer case. It just includes an auto 4-wheel drive and a 4-wheel drive high. There's your stability control off. You can also raise and lower the air suspension. You can see there's 6 different drive modes, from an individual, personal, standard, eco, sport, tow, and snow mode. Your heated and ventilated seats are going to be in the climate function. You can also access the rear over here. So this is definitely a nice, screen here to access things. Although some of you may just say they should have just done like actual traditional buttons, which I've seen the new Armada. It doesn't have this additional screen, but it has the same 14.3-inch display. So it's pretty similar to this car, but there are some key differences which make it feel a little bit nicer. You can see beautiful leather stitching on this lower portion here. There's also new 64 color ambient lighting in this car, and it's definitely a huge improvement over old Infinitis. This is actually the first Infiniti to get the upgraded ambient lighting, which does look nice, although it's not quite as intricate as what you're going to find from some BMW and Mercedes products, but it's about on par with Cadillac and with Lincoln, of course, as well, so that's important. Touch. You can see down here, you've got your push button transmission selector for the 9-speed auto. I don't love this right here. This requires you to kind of look down to see what button you're pressing versus being able to do it by feel. Now, if you guys own this vehicle, you may get used to it to the point where you kind of can just do it by feel. When I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your top-down 360 camera. Infiniti pioneered the top-down 360 camera. It has their moving object detection, which also includes, rear cross traffic braking. You can also go into a different view here. If you want to go to like a curb view, you can go to a wide view over here. Go back to the 360 view, which is also a nice touch. You can also go into a really cool view here where if I push the camera display, you can see, or it's already there. There's also that view over there, which we already showed you. Going to this view here, you can see this is the front camera view, but then if you tap this button here, it goes into an ultra wide view. Now this view extends into the instrument panel, which is kind of cool. And this essentially gives you a nice view if there's a blind spot where you're trying to pull out of an intersection and you can't really see because there's cars blocking the way. This allows you to see what's oncoming from both sides. So that's kind of a nice touch. The graphics, I wouldn't say are like class leading, but it's certainly an improvement. You can see there's your full 360 camera, which allows you to do a full perimeter scan there. You can also change the color of the vehicle in the background, which is nice, but that's definitely an improvement. But again, graphics aren't top of the class like what I've seen from some of the European competitors, but it's certainly still a nice touch. So camera quality, resolution, and camera game here, Infiniti has tremendously increased. Going back to the infotainment display, you can see there's the home screen here. I'll pull up the wireless CarPlay, which actually I can't do that because I'm using my phone. I found that when I was using the CarPlay and trying to record, it kept going back and forth and cutting my actual camera recording, which was annoying. There is, however, a dash cam here. You can see there's a built-in dash cam at the front. You can also take a photo, you can record, you can switch to the inside camera, which, as you can see, the inside camera is mounted here. You can also take a selfie from inside. It actually has a really good view of every seat in the vehicle, so that's kind of a nice little touch. It's kind of cool to see, manufacturers going stepping up their camera game, including that stuff. It has Google built in, so you can use the Google Assistant. You can access the Play Store as well. You can download a few other apps if you guys would like, although if you're looking for Apple Music, it doesn't offer Apple Music because Google and Apple just don't play nicely together. You can see this is the embedded GPS, which also is now Google Maps, which is also nice. Love the fact that you have basically the same Google Maps interface that you see from your house or your computer, for example. So that's all, you know, Infiniti really stepping up their game along with the voice commands. So this infotainment system, while it does have a little bit of a learning curve here, it is definitely really nice to see such a big improvement. And while some competitors have gone to that pillar-to-pillar screen like Lincoln and Cadillac, I like the fact that Infiniti decided to just go with 2 big screens and a separate 9-inch screen here to adjust your climate functions. You can see down here, this is where I also want to mention an area that Infiniti needs to address, because as you can see, there's a nice padded area here where I would rest my elbow, but most of the times my elbow sits between here, and this right here, it's covered in leather, but it's still really not padded at all. So on longer drives, I found this kind of hurting my elbow when I left it resting there, which is kind of a first world problem. But the door panel there and on my side is really padded, and this is also more padded. It could be even more padded. So this just needs a little bit of improvement ergonomically. You can see, open this up, you have your big cup holders here, you have a wireless phone charging pad here, you have 2 USB-C charging ports, and then you open this up, you can see I love the cool box there. It fits all my camera gear and it stays ice cold in here when you turn this on, so this is great for keeping drinks cold on those longer trips. It also comes with a seal here. I think this is included only on the autograph trim, so kind of keep that in mind. The seats are also plush, comfortable, and very supportive. The massage function, if you push the button here on the seat, you can see going into the adjust setting, you can see there's 3 different types of massage: refreshing, lumbar, and relaxing. So you can also change the speed and intensity. The massage function works okay. It's more of a lumbar massage, and I just found it to be annoying at times. Some competitors like the Cadillac and the Lincoln, I think, have better massage functions, but that's something that you have to try out for yourself and see, you know, what you actually like. But the seats are plush, luxurious, and they are extremely comfortable when you don't have the massage on. For me, you can see opening up the glove box, it's a bin style, it's damped, and it's lined with felt. It offers a good amount of additional storage. The audio system also sounds really good, although, you know, you do have a lot of really good sound systems in this class, like from Lincoln and from Cadillac. So I don't know if it's the best in the segment, but it's certainly very appealing. You can see digital camera rearview mirror along with a frameless auto dimming mirror. There's also a suede Alcantara on the headliner and covering the sun visors, which is nice. LED map lighting here, of course, and then the panoramic sunroof goes into the second row only, but it's standard. It also opens up to vent air, which is nice. You can see it only opens up over the driver's side area or the front seat area. You can also open it up there to open it up entirely. But again, it's a really nice touch. But overall, the interior definitely has a luxury feel to it with modern tech, great visibility, really high build quality as well, which I appreciate. Not a single squeak and rattle in this car. And overall, I think Infiniti did a really good job. It just requires some learning from the technology, infotainment standpoint, and I also need them to add more padding here in the center console area. Moving to the second row of the new QX80, you can see this autograph trim only comes with these captain's chairs. If you guys want a bench seat, it's available as a no-cost option on the Pure, the Luxe, and the Sensory. So you got to step down from the fully loaded trim to get a bench seat where you can get 8 passenger capacity. These seats, however, are really nice. The seats, first of all, have 4-way power adjustments, which is great. You have heat and ventilation. You have the same beautiful semi-aniline leather, and these also have a massage function, which is fantastic. It's included if you guys go for the Sensory and trims. You can see the door panel has the same beautiful materials here with the leather, the cross stitching, the beautiful wood, the metal speaker covers for the Klipsch audio system. Down here, it's also padded with additional storage. What this car, however, is missing is retractable shades. I don't know why it doesn't offer that, especially at this price point. However, I was just in the new Lincoln Navigator. It also didn't have that feature as well, so not sure why Infiniti doesn't have that in this vehicle. Something on the QX60 includes a feature like that on the top trims. Now you can see getting in, there's a grab handle here. I can basically use the running board and hoist myself up. And then once I get back here and shut the door, again, no soft close feature, but it sounds pretty solid as I shut the door from the inside. Here you can see the seats do offer that power adjustment for the recline and for moving it forward and back. And Infiniti claims there's 39.2 inches of legroom back here, which is a pretty decent amount. You're going to find a little bit more from some competitors, maybe an inch or 2 more. But this is pretty much where I have the front seat to drive. I can easily stretch out. There's great foot space, flat floor here, which is great. If you have the bench seat, I can easily cross my legs here and get comfortable. There's also dual zone, or I'm sorry, yeah, 3-zone climate control. So the rear seat gets its own climate functions, which you can also access back here. You have your heated and ventilated seat options. along with 2 more USB-C charging ports, a 12-volt power outlet, of course. And then, of course, over here, you can see the autograph includes this nice little center console that's fixed into position. You can see there's cup holders here. There's a little screen over here, although I think this is probably like a 7-inch display. It's a relatively good size where you can access the climate from here if you don't want to reach over there. Going back to the home, you can also access your heated and ventilated seats here. And you can also go into your seat adjustments and access the massage function here. So that's something to keep in mind. That also turns the screen off as well. You can also go to the side here. This is where you can access your settings and your seat massage. So again, just like on the front seat area, there's 3 different types of massage, from a relaxing to a refreshing, 3 different types of intensities. You can go to the passenger side over here and adjust that there. So kind of play with this. There's also a settings function here where you can actually turn the brightness up on the screen where it's a little bit too dim there. You can also do a screen timeout function. So this is really nice. Included again on the autograph trim. Open this up, you can see deep center console area with 2 more USB-C charging ports, which is nice, along with 2 more over here. So plenty of USBs and air vents and storage, although I would have liked to seen the refrigerator carry over into the second row here. These seats are also really comfortable and supportive. The cooled function also works really nicely. This is nice and padded. It's a good position here to get comfortable, which is nice. In terms of the headroom space, you can see my head gets actually pretty close to this, so I'm surprised that the sunroof takes up this much space. So kind of keep that in mind if you're a taller passenger. Your rear seat air vents are located here on the ceiling. And this vehicle, remember, has their new biometric cooling. So there's a sensor in this cabin, I believe it's maybe one of these, that can sense if you're either too hot or too cold, and it can quickly activate the climate function for your particular side. It has it in the 4 different zones here, which is a really cool feature to have. You'll never really notice it, but it's something that, of course, Infiniti wanted us to mention during the first drive of this vehicle. So I just found that the climate control feature in this car worked really fast to kind of cool me down, especially on hotter weather days. So the second row is basically a wonderful place to spend time. But what about the third row? This is an area where the Lexus LX really struggles because it's really designed more for body on frame off-road duties. You can see to access the third row, you push and hold this button here for a second where it'll kind of electronically push the seat forward. It also allows you to keep a child seat latched into that seat if you need to, and it should still be able to move out of the way. Obviously, it won't be able to move away that much when the seat is there, but you can see when it does move out of the way, it does provide a pretty generous opening here to get into the third row, which the third row area, as you can see, with this 83-inch wide vehicle, can easily accommodate 3 people across. You can see this is where I'm sitting here in the middle seat. For somebody my frame, I can sit back in the middle seat area, and that's pretty comfortable. Obviously, you're gonna have to pull this headrest up here to actually get it to be comfortable, but this is with the second row all the way back. Infiniti says there's 33 inches of leg room back here in the third row, which is a really good amount. I actually can sit back here at 5'7" with this seat all the way back, and my knees aren't touching here. I still have a good 3-4 inches of additional space. The foot space isn't great underneath here, so I might just keep my feet like this. But you can see there are heated third row seats, which this has been left on and the seat's stifling hot. You can also recline the third row back here with the touch of a button. There's also another 2 more USBs actually over there, which is actually I'm sorry, just 1 USB-C charging port. Cup holders. This is hard touch plastic. It would have been nice if this was leather. Big window here to let you see out from the back. You have third row air vents, which is nice. You can see same thing is carried over here on the driver's side. So overall, if you need the third row to actually carry adults in comfort, on longer trips, you can certainly do it back here. The headroom space also is pretty decent, although my head at 5'7" does come close to here. So just keep in mind if you're over 6 feet tall, the headroom space could be lacking, but the legroom space is actually really good. So here we are back behind the wheel of arguably the most important vehicle launch for Infiniti. This car is the flagship model over Infiniti because remember, the brand has no sedans anymore. They just killed off the Infiniti QX80 as of literally August. So this car is going to be a huge product renaissance for Infiniti. You're going to see a lot of their new products being essentially modeled after this all-new QX80. And I already had a chance to drive this vehicle about 3 months ago at the launch in Santa Barbara. So getting one back home is definitely a more eye-opening experience where I can spend a full week with the car. I can do a proper testing. I can do fuel economy testing. And my impressions on this car are still very positive from when I drove this vehicle at the first launch. This is essentially the same trim, the fully loaded autograph trim in the dynamic metal with these burgundy semi-aniline Nappa leather seats. The last time I 0 to 60 tested this car, I got 6.5 seconds. The old V8 did it in around 5.9. So let's go ahead and see what we can get on our usual stretch of road here. We have the car in its sport setting, and basically there's no launch, but we will brake torque it. and we got 5.98 seconds there. So 5.98 is a pretty decent time. It's the same time essentially that I got with the old 5.6 liter V8. So I'm happy to see that it's about a half a second quicker versus when I first tested this car out in California. And that time is pretty good. I mean, sure, it's not the quickest time, although it will keep pace, of course, with the 6.2 liter V8 in the Cadillac Escalade or the twin turbo V6 in the Lincoln Navigator. And even though I was hoping this car would be quicker versus the old V8, this V6 is powerful. It has plenty of low-end torque. It's got good mid-range. It also has a pretty nice augmented sound. I'm pretty sure it's augmented, and this new 9-speed auto is also a really, great transmission. It just puts the power down. It really, puts the engine in the meat of the power band. Let's try another run here. This time I won't brake torque it. Shifts at around 5,800 RPM. 6.3 there, and that's with it more going slightly uphill. So we'll take the 5.9. That is definitely a respectable time. Again, not the quickest, but this new V6 is just a wonderful powertrain. Do I wish Infiniti had gone with an electrified mild hybrid setup? Sure, but perhaps that's something that Nissan and Infiniti is working on for later. But this powertrain finally brings the QX80 into the modern realm. And again, it should get a little bit better gas mileage versus the old V8, which we'll talk about that in just a moment. Now, this is also the brand's, first fully air suspension with adaptive dampers. It has a new frame that is around 25% stiffer in torsional rigidity. And you definitely notice that, even though we're rolling on these 22-inch wheels, this car feels solid. It feels like a tank. It goes down the road with the same kind of heft that you get from other vehicles in this segment. The steering in the car is surprisingly quick, however. It's quick. The vehicle's suspension is soft. I have it in sport mode, and I can honestly daily it in sport mode. It's not, uncomfortable or unbearable at all. It has a really good ride quality, a better ride quality versus the last Lexus LX that I tested, and that's because this car has an independent rear suspension as opposed to the live axle in the back for the Lexus. But it also has a ride quality that seems comparable to like a Lincoln Navigator or a Cadillac Escalade. Although I do notice that even in sport mode, this car has a wallowy feel. It doesn't have the most sophisticated body motions. It feels heavy and it feels a little cumbersome, but most vehicles in the segment tend to feel this way, although Infiniti did claim that they said that this car was supposedly one of the more agile drivers in the segment. It certainly feels agile when you put your foot down, but in terms of the handling dynamics, it feels a little bit boaty at times. Put my foot down here again. Really great powertrain. I especially love the new 9-speed auto. This transmission is just a really willing partner. It puts the power down extremely well. And it also just really, makes the engine feel smooth and responsive and torquey. It's a good powertrain that I think a lot of people are going to appreciate, especially if you're coming from the old 7-speed automatic transmission with that V8, which the V8 required you to rev the engine out significantly to produce the power. This feels a little bit more like it has a lot more mid-range, and that's kind of what you want in a vehicle like this. So I'm curious to see if Infiniti or Nissan is going to put this engine in other vehicles. I suspect it'll probably make its way under the hood of the new Armada, although the Nissan version will likely have a little bit less power versus this. But brake feel in this car also, it has a little bit of a spongier brake pedal feel. The car doesn't have any kind of four-wheel steering, so you do notice it feels a little bit big when you're trying to get into those tight spaces. But there, in just normal acceleration, it feels good. I'm going to actually switch the drive mode here, which they have it on this little screen here via the haptic feedback, into the standard drive mode. This is how most people are going to drive the vehicle, and the QX80 excels as a wonderful luxury car. The quietness of this interior is fantastic. There's very little road, wind, or engine noise coming in, although the engine makes a nice augmented sound when you put your foot down. It's not intrusive when you're driving the car normally. These seats are sitting here giving me a massage. They have 14-way adjustments. I think the seats are really comfortable, actually. I like how plush these semi-aniline leather seats feel. I also like the headrest, how it kind of sits right at the back of my neck and provides nice support. The one thing I will criticize, however, and I said it in the interior, is this center console area here. Where my elbow falls, it falls onto like an area where it's not very padded. In fact, this back portion here is a little padded. This area here is not padded at all. So that's kind of like a little oversight that I think Infiniti needs to address, and just they need to redo the padding in the center console just to make it feel a little bit more plush. Because I have a really nice soft plush padded area here on the armrest for the doors. But just on the center console, it's not wonderful. There's also a digital camera rear view mirror if you guys would prefer that. That's included on this trim. It solves the visibility problem if you guys have a bunch of stuff mounted up to the ceiling or with people or stuff, or if you guys don't have it, it has good visibility out of the front, the side, the rear. This also has Infiniti's Drive Pilot 2.1, which offers hands-free driving, which I had a chance to use on a few highway roads in my local area, and it works fine. Although I will say that there are times where I was trying to overtake a vehicle and take control to signal right because it was a little bit too lethargic to do it, and it was fighting me to give back control. So that could be a quick little software thing. I noticed that other brands will do that too, but the Infiniti's was just a little more intrusive than I would like. The infotainment system is also a big improvement, although it does take a little bit of getting used to. There's a learning curve here because some of the adjustments that Infiniti requires you to do requires you to go into a sub-menu and another sub-menu, and it can be a little annoying at times. But once you get used to that, it's perfectly fine. So there is a little bit of that learning curve. In terms of fuel efficiency, this new engine is rated at 1619. And in my week's worth of testing, I averaged 16.5 mpg in mostly city driving. So the city rating is an improvement of about 3 miles to the gallon versus the old V8. And I'm definitely seeing that in real world testing. On the highway, I was able to do around 22 miles to the gallon. In pure highway driving, you'll do a little over 400 miles of range on a full tank with that 23.6 gallon fuel tank. So it's going to be relatively expensive on premium gas, but it's good to see that the fuel economy did improve, and it is better on the highway even versus what the EPA rates it at 19, which is the same as the old V8, but I was actually getting a little bit better in real world testing. So that's impressive. Now, could Infiniti have made this even better by making it a hybrid? Sure, but the fuel economy has finally brought it up to the same level, of course, as like the Cadillac Escalade with the V8, the 6.2 V8, the Lincoln Navigator with its V6, and then of course there's the Lexus LX, the Jeep Grand Wagoneer also has, the twin turbo inline 6, which should theoretically, get the similar gas mileage, but it also has the most power in the segment too. So I think Infiniti has struck a nice middle ground with this car in terms of driving dynamics, in terms of powertrain refinement, in terms of luxury feel. There's really only a couple of small missteps that I'm seeing here, and they just really have to do with this little console armrest. There's a little bit of a learning curve with the infotainment system, but what Infiniti has done here is they truly have brought this car into the modern 24th century era. And while it may not be, the top of the class in terms of luxury, technology, and space, it certainly finds a nice, comfortable middle ground. And if you guys want a Japanese body-on-frame SUV, this is really your only game in town if you want something that actually can fit up to 8 people and a decent amount of their stuff, because the Lexus LX really can't do both because of the fact that it wasn't really designed to give you, all-out passenger capacity like this Infiniti does. So even though the current generation QX80 was way overdue for a redesign, Infiniti managed to sell a little under 13,000 units here in the US in 2023. That's right, a 14-year-old vehicle managed to do that many numbers. And while obviously the sales king in the segment is the Cadillac Escalade with around 40,000 units, this vehicle was dangerously close to the sales figures of the Lincoln Navigator, and it also outsold the Jeep Grand Wagoneer. So that's certainly an accomplishment for Infiniti, which is why this all-new QX80 is such a big deal for them. And after spending a full week with the all-new third generation, clearly Infiniti is making some nice leaps in the right direction. The brand new chassis, the brand new V6 engine, the brand new interior, the all-new design is certainly going to make this vehicle far more enticing, especially if you must have a Japanese-built 3-row body-on-frame SUV. As you guys saw, the new V6 delivers solid acceleration. 0 to 60 happens in just under 6 seconds. It has a really wonderfully smooth ride quality with that new air suspension. The stiffer frame results in less squeaks and rattles. It just feels like a solidly made and tight vehicle. Where I wish Infiniti would do a little more suspension tuning is in the handling dynamics. They claim this car is going to be more sporty, or this SUV is more sporty versus some of its rivals. While it does have a really good steering feel, I found that the handling dynamics and the suspension to be a little bit too sloppy for, enthusiastic driving, which is fine. It results in a really good ride quality, which I think is more important for people in this segment anyways. The second row offers good space. The third row also offers good space. Cargo capacity is pretty average for the segment. Again, if you want more, you're going to want to buy the American rivals, which have an extended length version. But really, the technology in this vehicle is where we see that big leap. The all-new infotainment system with its wireless CarPlay, the over-the-air updates, the new, layout with the software is certainly a huge improvement. Although there are some elements of this interior where I do see a little bit too much, relation to Nissan. Some of the graphics in the software could get its own Infiniti branded graphics. It needs better padding in the center console armrest area for long-distance comfort. And the massaging seats, while they are nice, I found that the massaging seats in the Cadillac and the Lincoln to be a little bit better, at least for me personally. So try that out for yourself, see if you like them. And then obviously, when you're dealing with a brand new vehicle, you're gonna have to also deal with an increase, a significant increase in the price tag, because the old QX80 was a bargain in the segment. It started at around $74,000 for the base version. Obviously, the new model with all its technology and luxury features, additional power, it's going to cost more. This vehicle starts at $82,450. So that's an increase of about $8,000 versus the previous generation. It sounds like a lot, but also keep in mind its price tag is now right in line with a lot of its 2024 American rivals. Although this vehicle's price still undercuts the Lexus LX by about $10,000. It also undercuts the Jeep Grand Wagoneer by around $9,000 as well. Keep in mind the new Escalade and Navigator, which will be coming out at the end of this year or early next year, will have a new starting price of just shy of $90,000. So there is still some value to be had with the Infiniti. Obviously, if you want to step it up, I would probably recommend the luxury trim that starts at just under 90 grand. Add $3,000 if you guys want four-wheel drive. You could get a well-equipped QX80 in the Lux trim, which has most of the features that people want with the bench seat. If you guys don't want the captain's chairs, you want to be able to seat 8. You could spend around 95 grand for that vehicle, depending on whether you want their Pro Pilot Assist 2.1, which is a $3,000 upcharge on every trim except for this autograph. Moving up to the sensory trim, that's going to get you the massaging front and second row seats. That's going to cost you at least $100,000. This autograph trim has everything. There's no additional options to add besides the color, coming in at around $112,595. So that's right, this vehicle is now well over the six-figure mark, whereas the old QX80 topped out at around 90 grand. But I'd argue that it's certainly still well priced with all the new technology, luxury features that it has. It's also still the value option in the segment, especially when you look at the new 2025 American rivals. This is still technically the cheaper option by as much as $5,000 to $10,000. So kind of keep that in mind. This vehicle is definitely worth a look if you need the space, the capability, and the presence that you get from buying a vehicle in this segment. With all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 Infiniti QX80. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.